the New Mexico Farmington Mission was created in July of 2010. Yeah, when I was there, I think the boundaries have only changed just a little bit. When I was there, it covered Flagstaff, Arizona, and then it also covers Gallup, New Mexico, is kind of the southeast corner, and then the northeast corner is Durango, Colorado, Pagosa Springs, Colorado, a couple of skiing and hunting towns up there, and then it goes into Utah. In the northeast corner is Blanding and Monticello, and also Page, Arizona, as well. So in general, the mission was created to cover the Navajo and Hopi reservations and the surrounding cities around it. I'm aware that since I left for my mission back in May 2012, the boundaries changed a little bit so that the Flagstaff area is no longer in the Farmington Mission. I think Flagstaff is part of the Phoenix Mission again. But other than that, I think it's pretty much the same. You have the Navajo and Hopi reservation with Page, Arizona, Monticello, Blanding in Utah, Durango, Colorado, Gallup, New Mexico, Farmington, New Mexico, of course, Shiprock, Aztec, kind of around Farmington. So that's kind of the area. I've met a few of the older generation, kind of like my grandparents' generation, who served in the area. And back then it was the Southwest Indian Mission. That's what it was called. After that, it was called the Holbrook, Arizona Mission. And so there was a mission headquarters in Holbrook, Arizona. And then it got split into different missions, Phoenix, Albuquerque, and now it's New Mexico Farmington. And then it's mostly English-speaking, almost completely English-speaking. There were probably about half a dozen companionships that were Spanish-speaking, or English and Spanish-speaking, one English, one Spanish. So there's a little bit of Spanish, mostly almost all English. Some people have asked me if I've learned Navajo. I have. There are some like church materials in the Navajo language, but almost everyone speaks English anyway. So even when I was on the Navajo reservation, I could speak English with pretty much everybody, except maybe the oldest generation could only speak Navajo, but they're usually living with their children who could speak English and Navajo. So there really wasn't much of a language barrier, although, you know, they would often talk Navajo like when we were around if they just wanted to talk among themselves. It was very helpful to learn some Navajo words though. That kind of helps give some rapport with the Navajo people. Same with Hopi too. There aren't as many Hopis, but they have their own language as well, so sometimes it helps to learn a few Hopi words if you're in that area. There are two temples that are pretty close to the mission. There's a temple in Monticello, Utah. It's one of the small temples. And there were a couple of mission temple trips up to Monticello. There's also a temple in Snowflake, Arizona, it was not in the Farmington Mission, it's in the Mesa, Arizona Mission. But there was one time when my mission president gave permission for the missionaries close to Snowflake to go down to the Snowflake Temple to go do a session there. So, and of course there are a few temples around the Phoenix area as well. But yeah, even though the Navajo reservation area is all one mission, it's split up into lots of temple districts. Like there are some that go to the temple in Albuquerque, some to Mesa, some to Snowflake, some to Monticello. So that's the situation with temples there. I met a lot of people who were part of the Indian Placement Program, it was a church program back in the day of President Spencer W. Kimball. Basically, the idea was that the children of the Navajos and Hopis and Native Americans in general could they could go to school in Utah or California and stay with an LDS family out there. But in order to be part of the program, you had to be baptized a member of the church. So it was an interesting situation where a lot of Native American children were baptized into the church, and then they went to school in Utah or California with members of the church, LDS families. And then, of course, during the summer, they'd go back home in the reservation and then go back to school during the school year. So it was a very interesting program, very beneficial as well, that, gave many more academic and professional opportunities for the Native American people. As far as the church goes, there are a lot of still active people who got baptized because of the placement program, and so still a lot of active people. Also a lot of inactive people as well. It's an interesting situation where there are a lot of wards, there are a lot of branches and a few wards, and the 2 stakes cover the entire Navajo reservation. But there are many members of the church, but few of them are actually active. So there's a lot of reactivation work to do on the reservation itself. In the cities like Gallup or Durango or Monticello and Blanding, it's kind of like I guess a typical ward you might find. I guess there aren't as many less actives, I don't think, if you can think of a typical ward, I suppose, or a typical stake. But yeah, on the reservation itself, you'll meet a lot of people that have been baptized in the church or have had lots of contact with the church and are very friendly to the missionaries, which is wonderful. But it's also it's a tough process to try to help them to become reactivated into the church. So they remember who baptized. They remember the name of the person who baptized them. They remember how old they were. They remember the situation when they were baptized in the church and when they went to school. But then today they wouldn't have much to do with it. Just not interested or had bad experience with the church or something like that. So lots of interesting situations because of the Indian placement program.